I actually slept here in the studio, Eric.
I'm not surprised by that.
Slept in the studio because the Packers played in Brazil last night, and so some of us just camped it out.
Yeah.
So we camped it out. Not outside. It's not like we pitched tents in the front lawn here in the Megaplex, but by the time we wrapped up with the Packer football postgame show, it was close to 2 a.m. and rather drive an hour plus home. I said, you know what? Let's just make it a night and stay here because we wanted to be fresh for Tailgate Talk this morning. So we put a pot on about 6:15, and here we go because we're now into day 2 of the football frenzy.
Yeah.
Because the Badgers later on today take on South Dakota. We're going to go live to the set in Union South where Reed and Nick Bruzewitz will be with the pregame show. That begins at 10:30 this morning. So we're here. No Wags today either.
No Wags. He's in playoff contention.
He's
so
deep into postseason play.
He's trying to wrap his head around everything that's happening. I mean, it's kind of day to day for them right now. And Wags sent me a note this morning and said, for all updates for the Dachhounds, pay attention to their socials, pay attention to their actual website, dachhounds.com, and keep up to date with everything. Because at this point, now that they're at this phase, it is kind of day-to-day for everything that happens for them. So they could be done at any point in time. So if you have not made it to a game yet, baseball playoff is pretty exciting to watch. So
that's why. So I'm a little bit slow. Eric's carrying the show today.
Oh, boy.
No Wags. So last weekend, many people think the Labor Day weekend is the end of summer.
Yeah.
What signifies the end of summer for you?
It's usually kind of a combo of two things. I fast forward everything based around deer season.
Okay.
So once we start getting into a lot of scouting and a lot of that stuff, and my dad's birthday comes around at the beginning of August, I know it's really early for me to say that the beginning of August is kind of the end of summer, but so many things are happening for all of us, whether that's football season's kicking off or all of the work that you're doing to get ready for hunting seasons, because really September 1st is really when a lot of those kick off. I always say the beginning of August because of all of the things that happen in August leading into deer season then.
So now you're a guy, I would assume, because you spend a lot of time, your free time in the woods, and I grew up doing that.
Yeah.
That you would acquire, and I brought this up to my wife the other day, and she goes, whenever you talk about this every year, you're so weird. And what I'm talking about is smells.
Yeah.
And I think there's a distinct smell in spring. I think there's a distinct smell in summer. And I think there's a distinct smell in fall. And we went on a pretty extensive kayak run on Sunday, this past Sunday. And it was really weird. There was hardly any animal activity.
Okay.
It was almost like the water was perfect. It was almost like glass. But there wasn't a lot of birds chirping, that type of thing. And then I said to my wife, I go, can you smell it? And she goes, what? She goes, what, the water? I go, no, just you can smell it, at least for me. Am I weird in this, or are you the same way when it comes to the fall?
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
because
it smells differently, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think we get a lot of that springtime growing, and there's typically a lot of moisture in the soil, so you get a lot of that dirt kind of effervescence, I guess. And then there's a different, I don't know, I can pinpoint what it is for spring, but I don't know what that fall smell is, but it's different.
Yes.
It's not really hot and sticky throughout summer where you get a lot of that dry heat or, even some of the more humid weather. But once the temperatures start to cool off, I think that's when you really start to feel that change and get that different smell. Like, driving in a couple days this week, all of the river around me and all of the fields, there was so much fog just kind of sitting there, and there was that haze. So I think you start to get some of that smell from that just kind of coming out of the ground again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, there's a smell for it.
Well,
so is that once you smell that the first time, summer's over?
Well, I begin to think that way. The other two signs that I saw over the weekend was that one, where we live in the Lake Mills area, there's a lot of farming community around it. And the soybeans are now changing to yellow.
Yep.
And when soybeans turn yellow, that means it's almost time to harvest.
Yep.
And that means, to me, growing up on a farm, that summertime is over and fall is coming when you see the beans change. The other thing, too, that we noticed when we were kayaking was that we saw one of the trees, or more than one, a couple of trees, that the leaves had actually changed to yellow.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, oh, boy. That means it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Well, and then we've had tail end of this week and into the weekend. I think Friday the high was in the low 60s.
Yeah.
And they had I heard Zabe talk about it this week with the meteorologist up in Green Bay, Lou Sampe.
Okay.
That he had a flannel warning. A flannel watch, or is it flannel warning? One of the two.
If that is a Wisconsin weather alert, I don't know what is.
It's a flannel watch this weekend.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool because he had a map kind of northeastern Wisconsin, and the temperatures were in the 40s.
Yeah.
And then he had flannel, like yellow and black flannel, highlighting those areas.
Yeah.
So a flannel watch is in effect for this weekend.
I do have to say, we talked about me getting the puppy last week and, just getting up early with her on the weekends and going out in the morning and all of that stuff. And it's my favorite time of year when it's shorts and hoodie weather. Mm-hmm. Because you can just throw your hoodie on, go outside. It's a little brisk. It's a little chilly. It feels like, fall is here, but it's not quite there because our days are still getting up into the high 70s and 80s. I love this season, though. It's that big change. It feels like summer always takes forever to get here. And then going into spring, going into fall, it's like a very distinct change usually. And it's just like, here we go, baby. Here we go.
Well, and guys like you that love the woods and the hunt, now it's like it has to be that, 3-week period between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
Where it can't, those 3 weeks, you envision that present when you were a kid, or those presents if you were lucky enough to get multiples. And you're like, these 3 weeks can't go by fast enough. Because I want to dive into the Christmas goodies, the presents. Give me some presents. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what adds to that is for anybody that's running trail cameras, you start getting some of those buck pictures in. And this is the week, I say it every year, this first week of September seems to be the week every year that the bucks lose their velvet and go hard-horned. And remains true again this year. All the bucks last week, I think I had a picture on Saturday that came through, still in velvet. And then it was as soon as Tuesday that I started to get my hard-horned buck pictures. And it's exciting. It's exciting. I mean, we're not in the state where you can get a velvet deer. I mean, I think it would be a very, very rare occurrence that if you hunted on opening day that you'd still have a velvet deer out there. But, it seems to be that this is the week that happens every year, that things are really starting to change, and it adds to that excitement then.
I was thinking about you this week when I saw the weather reports that it was going to be cold at the end of this week and into the weekend, because last week you were lamenting the fact that it's been so warm, the last thing you wanted to do for the opening of the bow season is to walk out in a camouflage T-shirt because it's too hot.
Right. And it's nice because then you can get into some of your, thinner pants, thinner long sleeve shirts. You can kind of have more of that coverage. It's an exciting time. I think I saw a lot of people posting about getting out for the opener for early teal and early goose. But like I said last week, it's the last week for like 25 weeks that we won't be in a season.
The other thing I was thinking about, too, we touched on last week in the program about towards the end of it, we were talking about, hey, again, as a friendly reminder, go out, check your gear, check your stands. Like Wags told us last week, his is up year-round, so it's always good. Then I was thinking about this on my drive in this week. It's a good idea to check your clothes, too. Yeah. Depending how you wintered during the off-season, you want to make sure they fit. The last thing you want to do is pull them out the night before, and it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and you go downstairs in the basement where you have them all packed away. Right. And you pull them out, you slip on that pair of camouflage pants, and they don't quite fit.
So then you're putting on the belt and not doing the top button and just hoping that everything works out for you.
Exactly.
It's funny, and then you get into the tops and it's like, oh, well, this used to be like a loose fit.
And you're grabbing your phone and saying, what time does Farmer Fleet close?
Yeah.
I got to hustle over there.
And that's just, we've been reminding that. The DNR just sent something out about, archery season's rapidly approaching. It's time to review safety tips when it comes to hunting from a tree stand. Mm-hmm. So it's all of those things that come together at this time of year. It's just one thing on top of another. You get the DNR emails, you get the trail camera pics, you start seeing the corn start to turn yellow. Mm-hmm. The next thing will be is opening day, but then after that, you get the corn getting cut and farmers are in their fields. It's an exciting time of the year.
It was interesting, too, when you were mentioning about seeing on your trail cams now bucks that are now coming out of the velvet. Something my wife always tells me, and I was thinking about this the other day, for those who are familiar where we are in our studios in the Megaplex, there's a conservancy that's down the road a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's a quick cut-off road between West Howard and National that many of us who work here use. Yeah. And we do abide to the speed limit as we go through. But you often have deer that are so used to us coming through there, they kind of saunter out of the ditch, right? So the other day I was coming back from lunch and a doe came out and she had a fawn with her.
Sure.
My wife's voice popped into my head. She's always wait. Why wait? Because there's always another one or two that are waiting to come out. And sure enough, I waited as the doe and the first fawn came across. Shortly thereafter, here came the second fawn.
Yeah.
And it's always, every time I see a fawn alongside the road, I always think about that and my wife's voice in my head going, among many things my wife says to me, that's in the voice in my head. But this one is wait, because usually if there's one, there's another that's going to come along quickly.
Yeah, and that's just kind of how it happens, and they're so small that they can be tucked into those weeds or that
especially
tall grass
down here
and
in that
everything.
road we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that about the speed limit. I don't know that I go faster than 10 miles an hour through there because I'm always kind of trying to scan.
Yeah.
I have not seen, and maybe you have, you have some of the other off hours from what I am. I haven't seen any of those bucks around here yet. And I know that there was 3 of them last year, maybe 4 of them that were really, really beautiful deer.
Yes.
And I just keep waiting for that because last year I think it was a little earlier. I think it was like July that I saw the bachelor group together. I saw them again in August, and then you see them throughout the season occasionally. I haven't seen them. I know that our sister station, FM 106, one of the morning show hosts over there sends me the videos when they are out back.
Just put a trail cam on one of the towers out back.
I know.
You could.
I thought about
easily.
that.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll do that. Okay. Well, with your blessing, Tim.
Sure. Why not?
Why not?
It's all show prep. It's all material for the program, right?
Yeah.
Look at it that way. Speaking of the program, on segment 2, we got a lot of stuff going on today. Again, no Wags. He is busy. He's entrenched with the Dock Hounds as they try to make their way through the playoffs. They're working on that as we speak, so he's not with us on this Saturday. What do you got coming up? I know we're going to talk some salmon today, right?
So there's a new some research or some alerts that are coming out about the Alaskan King Salmon possibly going to the Endangered Species List. I've got a couple people, if you're like me and you're still trying to kind of figure out some new spots to get to, I have 8 little kind of tips and tricks that I use in order to scout out some of those areas and get familiar with some of those new places. And then we've got a couple other knucklehead stories that, come from around the country. And, we haven't dove into any of those in a while, Florida man stories. So we've got a couple of those too.
Florida man, Sheboygan man, they're all kind of
Idaho man, possibly.
Idaho man. Ooh, okay, there's the taste. All right, we'll dive into that and more as we continue. Tim Scott and Eric Tasker holding down the fort on this Saturday morning. Glad to have you with us. It is Tailgate Talk here on the game. Busy Saturday, a little bleary-eyed. Many of us are, and if you're up with us, thank you for that. Packers wrapped up their game in Brazil yesterday, late into the morning with the Packers OT. But we decided to make a night of it. We stayed in the studio. We're ready and fresh. Had a pot of coffee brewing at 6:15 this morning, and here we are in the 7 o'clock hour, diving into another edition of Tailgate Talk.
Good thing we got all those couches spread throughout the offices here.
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
And by the way, for those of you scoring at home, this is episode 160, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So, and again, I don't know if anybody's scoring at home, but it's an old radio cliche that we decided to use anyway. So we're at 160. No Paul Wagner today. Why? It's a good thing. Doc Hound's busy with baseball postseason. We're excited about that. And we should give some love to the Doc Hounds because they've been a great partner of this show all season long, haven't they?
Yeah. And they, we were fortunate enough as a sales staff to go out there and just kind of check out one of the games. And I was kind of harassing some of the pitchers in the bullpen. And, Wags was in the actual dugout. I'm thinking, why isn't he down here working with the pitchers? But, that's all right. Yeah, and it's such a beautiful venue out there. And what I'm excited to hear about is, what about this magnificent drone show?
Oh, the drone show,
magnificent drone show or magnificent fireworks show?
So you weren't out there for the money drop. You didn't make it, right?
No, no. So
you know what? That's a good thing because we avoided a story that had the lead of an Oconomo walk, man.
Beats children to pay for deer season.
That's right.
It's probably better that way. Yeah, so
Oconomo walk, man, down in his luck, tackled 3 kids trying to grab a $50 bill that was part of a drone show put on by Doc Hound's game.
Yeah, so we'll have to, we'll hear from him next week. He'll be back next week, he says. And, it's exciting for them. I mean, for a while there, I know they were a little frustrated and things were kind of like getting worked out with their team. And, it's hard at that level because they're interchanging players and some people are getting picked up and then they're, constantly evolving as a team and it's coming together here at the end and possibly at the right time.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. We have the similar conversations with our friends with the Admirals. And the difference is that the Admirals are the AAA team of the Nashville Predators.
Right.
So you could have this core group of guys that are just killing it, and then they get a phone call, and the guy's gone.
Right.
And so that's one of those things where, to be competitive, to win championships, in those, because of, and when you get into this is part of it. You can lose a player, and you never want to deny them the ability to go up to the level, to go up to the highest level. But still, it's got to be hard putting a roster together that way.
Well, yeah, and you think about it, you want your best players to stay with you. They make the biggest impact on your own team.
But you want the best for your players, too.
And then those are the people who are most likely to get picked up then.
Yeah. So the website, DocHounds.com, that's the best place to get the information on them. But, again, we thank them for their support all season long. So we head into the second weekend of September. We survived Labor Day weekend.
Yep.
Bunzel survived Labor Day weekend. And the grilling season is not over. The sweet meat deal or sweet monthly deal that they have. I think we came up with the term the sweet meat deal.
Sweet meat deal. That's
that
what
was
we call
us.
it.
That's not Bunzel's.
That's what we call it. Yeah. So the September meat deal is 2 homemade chicken cordon bleus, 2 homemade bratwursts, whole or cut up chicken, pound of ground chuck, and 2 chicken patties. Boy, they love to kind of have those staples in the backside there of that. The whole or cut up chicken, the ground chuck, and then the 2 chicken patties, which probably just very, very common things, and they rotate some of those things around. But, yeah, here we are. We're in the middle of football season now, and, people are going to start having watch parties, and they're going to start having, like, fantasy football parties and just a bunch of different things. So if you're in need of grabbing some food for the grill for the weekend, head to Bunzel's. They've got such a big selection and a wide variety of things, and they're all locally sourced. Meats, chickens, poultries, all that stuff. So great people and easy to get to, 95th and Burleigh.
The thing is, too, is that a lot of people nowadays, it's all about price.
Right.
And oftentimes and again, everybody's economic spend is different, but there's something to be said about quality.
Right.
I mean, when you go cheap, oftentimes it is cheap. And you don't use that word in connection with Bunzel's. I mean, and my wife and I, and you were very gracious, they were very gracious to give us some stuff this summer. And just the two of us, we couldn't eat it all.
Yeah.
And so we fired up some brats that had been in the freezer from, I think, June or July when you gave us that. Still fresh. And it was the pineapple brats.
Oh, yeah.
Us. And my wife was kind of like, she's not into that. She likes more traditional stuff. Love these.
Yeah.
Loved them. And to the point where we've gone back and we've restocked because, again, pay a little bit more maybe on average, but the quality is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just it. You know, if you are a more traditional person when it comes to grilling stuff, they've got your staples. You know, your regular brats, your Polish, Italians, all that. But if you do want to be adventurous, or if you want to just maybe sample a couple of those, run in there, grab one or two of them, and see what you think. And then, you know, if it's like us, you know, and you find out about the honey mustard cheddar brats,
yeah,
you'll be back for more. You can't buy just one of those.
Not to mention the fact the beef sticks, or the sticks we had when we were out. Speaking of the Dock Hounds, we're out at the stadium doing the show this summer.
The 150.
Yeah, those were outstanding.
Yeah.
Those were outstanding, too.
Yeah, and it's nice. You know, they've got a number of different things. So if you're just packing a bag and you're going to sit in a tree stand for a while and you want something that's easy to carry and easy to pack, grab a couple of those, throw them in a Ziploc bag, and
away you go.
Away you go.
Bunzels.com. That's Bunzels with a Z.
Yeah.
.com. All right, so you teased us going into the last break about a Florida man, a Sheboygan man, an Oconomowoc man. But no, we go out to the state of Idaho. The potato state.
What was it here? Okay, I'm sorry. It's a Washington man.
It's a Washington man.
Washington,
the state of Washington
man gets over 2 years in prison for shooting into a herd of elk out of season.
What?
So Randy Cox just couldn't help himself.
Right.
28-year-old Washington man was having car trouble on the opening day of the 2022 firearm elk season when a Good Samaritan stopped to help him.
Right.
During the course of the conversation, he mentioned elk hunting had been better the day before the season opener. And that raised suspicions.
So he's on his way. It's the opening day of elk season. He's on his way. His car breaks down. A Good Samaritan stops by and says, "Hey, what's going on? How can I help?"
Yeah.
And in the midst of their conversation, he talks about how it was better yesterday than it would be today.
Yeah.
What a dumbass.
Yes. So the Good Samaritan then has his suspicions raised.
I bet.
He calls the DNR.
Yes.
The DNR calls this gentleman, Randy Cox. The group and the party that Randy Cox was with gets tracked down. They get interviewed. The stories are all inconsistent, which raises further questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that he ended up being charged with a felony, count of possession of a firearm, 6 misdemeanors for elk poaching and wastage of big game, and 1 misdemeanor for criminal trespassing. So not only did he shoot an elk,
one of his buddies in that group flipped him.
Oh,
they
for
had
sure.
to have flipped him.
For all of those different things to come out.
And nobody else in this group got charged, just him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's like, I
not
don't
us,
understand.
Not us. Not us.
No, not us.
No,
yeah,
no, it wasn't
but
us.
I'll give you some information about what actually went
We're
down.
going to flip this guy right here. He's the guy that's going down.
And it's just, as I scrolled through this article and I read, more and more about it,
right.
I was expecting some big, 7x7 bull, right? It's just a small spike bull, probably a yearling. I'm like, not that it justifies this by doing it for a larger animal, but then it turns out that it is just a smaller bull. So this guy really is just going out just to shoot for fun. Mm-hmm. That is despicable.
Yeah, it is. He should. You know what? And the thing is that you lose your hunting privileges, you lose your firearms, that kind of thing. To me, it should be for life.
Right.
I mean, this guy does not deserve to hunt. This guy does not. I mean, listen, you blew that privilege, pal.
Yeah.
I mean, when you do something this stupid, this asinine, you're done.
Yeah.
Take your gun away.
So, 29 months in state prison.
What? He got 29 months in the hole for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
$4,000 fine and a
Yes.
2-year suspension of his hunting privileges. So I would assume then the way that this is written.
So we got a year plus in jail.
2 years plus 2 years.
Oh, yeah,
24
months. Yeah, you're right. 2 years in jail.
So 29 months, the 2 years, 5 months in jail.
Woo!
I would think then that the 2-year suspension of hunting privileges would be tacked on at
when
the
he's
release
out.
date
Yes.
of that, which would make sense.
So
and a $4,000 fine.
Can you imagine that conversation? So what are you in for?
It's just, yeah, I shot a small spike bull the day before the season.
Okay, so my question to you, Eric Tasker, is this. And again, now this is where we're swerving off the page and what this program is sometimes. Is that penalty seem a little severe? I mean, 2 years in prison for this.
Well, I think as you read through this, part of it was wastage of big game. So that means that he just shot it and left it there.
Yeah.
Which is.
But 2 years in prison for this.
Yeah. I don't know. It does seem a little harsh, but I think what happens with these more often than not is they overcharge people to set an example. We're not okay with this.
Yes,
we are not okay with this. Mm-hmm. Don't even think about it.
Yes. This is the guy that when you go to the state fair and you see the DNR exhibit,
right,
they'll have a picture of this guy.
Right.
And up below it, they'll have a little, synopsis of the case.
Yeah.
And they'll have in bold print, he served 2 years in the state prison. Don't let this be you.
Don't be Randy.
Don't be Randy.
Yeah.
That's
it's
right.
the cuffs and collars.
Don't be Randy.
It's the cuffs and collars section of the website.
Don't be a Randy.
And, I think, just looking at this, a combination of a lot of different things. So he was trespassing, poaching, hunting out of season, and
they
wasting
threw the book
game.
At this guy.
So, it's not just one thing here. It's a number of things.
Again, I don't want to come across like I'm saying it's too harsh, but when you realize that he's in prison for 2 years and there's people who are walking the streets who've done far more severe things, you kind of question the logic. But I think what you're saying is really true. They're trying to make an example of this guy.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it.
I don't know. I guess you can't fault them for it. They're trying to be on the front end of it.
Sure.
They're trying to make a statement by it. Don't be a Randy. So that was one story that I saw. And then the other one that we had kind of teased, Alaskan King Salmon may receive the Endangered Species Act listing soon.
You know what? I would have never imagined that. Is it because of heavy commercial fishing?
So it says here that a petition was started earlier this year by a Seattle-based wild fish conservancy to get them at least to a threatened level, and it's gaining traction. They're basically just pulling together the bare minimum data at this point. Mm-hmm. So they don't really have a lot of those findings. So I'm wondering if it is, so they just have the raw data here, and I'm kind of scanning this again as I reread it. But really what they're seeing is that the spawning numbers aren't what they were before. Okay. And I'm sure it's a combination of overfishing, but also that they're just if their spawn numbers aren't as big, that's a compounding effect of not being able to replenish their habitat or replenish their numbers just on a year-over-year basis. But they're taking it as far as just, looking at specifically different regions of the Alaska Gulf and, trying to monitor that on a much closer level. But I would imagine that it's got to be a combination of just overfishing and then, the commercial fishing.
It's really an interesting story because of all the things that I would suspect that might be being placed on the endangered species list, it would not be that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's such a common fish.
Yes.
You hear about it everywhere.
But maybe that's part of the problem.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, and they were even saying that as they were collecting some of this information, a lot of local Alaskans are also, starting to get on board with this because they're also seeing that, and that they believe that actions need to be taken to protect those populations.
Well, stay tuned because, as they say, we have not heard the end of that story. You have not heard the end of us either. We have one more segment to go in the program. Quick reminder, too, Badger football today. Badgers Week 2 playing at home at the camp against South Dakota, the Coyotes in town. We'll be live at Union South with our pregame show with Reed and Nick Brusewitz. That coming up at 10:30 today. It's a 2:30 kick, so all day today we've got football for you here on the game. Stay with us. Final segment of Tailgate Talk is next here on 97.3 The Game. There's no Paul Wagner this week. He's in the midst of a hopeful deep playoff run with the Lake Country Doghounds. I did it
Still
on
a pause.
I did it on purpose, just for you. But we wish them the best as they make hopefully a deep run into postseason play. And then Wags is back, and we'll see all those notes he took a few weeks back about food plots, if he's applied them, and if he's let Eric Tasker use the tractor. My guess is no, but we'll have to wait and see.
So I'll tease you with this.
Okay.
When Wags is back.
Did he give you a hey buddy call? That's what I want.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But he has a great story about his food plot that I cannot wait for him to share. So it has to do with an infestation and how to eradicate the problem that's taking over his food plot.
Did it involve fire?
It did not.
Okay. All right. We'll just leave it right there.
We'll leave it there. That'll be the tease for now. And Wags can share that story when he's back next week.
All right. I can hardly wait for that. I've shared on this story that grew up on a family farm in western Wisconsin. My parents retired and sold the farm. I bought the best 40 acres that were the hunting property.
Okay.
Had it for about 10 years, 15 years, maybe 10 years. And then life happened, and I ended up selling that piece of property. One of my biggest regrets that I sold that property. I had hunting stands, had a pond, it was nice.
Yeah.
But I had to sell it at that time. So now 15, 20 years later, my sons are all into their early 20s and early 30s. And so now we are kicking the idea around of buying a property again that we can all use from a hunting standpoint. And I was sharing this story with you before you came in today, and you're like, aha, hey, perfect timing there, buddy, because you've got some tips. So I'm going to be like Wags. We had the food plot guy on 2 weeks ago.
Just take a bunch of notes.
I got my pen here. I'm going to take some notes about what I should think about when looking for a new hunting property.
Yeah, and I'll have to just, put this out there, this disclaimer out there. I don't know everything about it, and I still struggle to find, some of the perfect spots. But I think there's a number of things that we all kind of go through in a mental checklist while we are seeking out some of those new lands. So, the last couple of years, I had hunted a place that was just 20 minutes from our place in Hartford. So it was super easy for me to get there. I could hunt until dark and I could be home at a decent time. And now, that's 50 minutes away. So getting there early or getting there and staying until dark, or it's just not as easy. So what I've been doing is trying to find some public land near me, which there's a number of different spots, but it kind of takes me back to going through that mindset of what do I need to think about before I go out there? What do I need to kind of keep in mind while I'm out there? And what do I do from now through the end of the season in order to kind of really figure out what do I need to do best? So thinking specifically about public lands, which, Tim, this could also apply for you when you're looking at, a new parcel or, some of the features and things like that. But more specifically with public lands, I was looking at a couple different articles, and the first thing that they say, which I completely overlooked, is what does the access and the availability look like? Now, this piece that I'm going to go look at this week is a perfect example of that because, looking through Onyx and looking through mapping software, my buddy and I have been talking about this parcel that's not very far. I think it's like 15 minutes away from me. And I kept looking at maps and I'm like, okay, it looks almost like it's landlocked, but there's got to be an easement there somewhere. It's public state forest land, so you have to be able to access it. It's kind of like the corner crossing stories out west, where the farmers can't just buy all the land around it. There has to be an easement there. So thinking first and foremost about your access and the availability to get there. The availability part is so big for me because I want to be able to go out on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning where I'm not driving an hour to get there and driving an hour to get back and doing all of that, but finding places that you feel comfortable, making that trek to get there. Thinking about that first and foremost. So my first thing is using technology. And the caveat with that is, using technology where and when it's legal to do so. Because the 3 bullet points that I have with that is Onyx or a mapping software of some sort, making sure that you can see some of the terrain features and things like that. Because, going into a new piece, you don't know if there's going to be a water hole there somewhere. It tells you a lot about, what does the actual terrain look like in terms of, is it forested? Is it marshland? Is it all of those things? Flying a drone over that parcel. Now, my conversation with the DNR last year, there's still a lot of gray area with that. And I say that because you can use a drone to scout properties or to take aerial photography of properties. You cannot use it in the assistance of harvesting game animals. So my immediate question with that was then, well, how long do you actually have to wait? Because you could fly a drone over a marsh, see there's ducks out there, and try and go kill those ducks.
Right.
But there's not really a gray area. So if you are going to go scout with a drone, do not have your weapons with you. Do not have a firearm. Do not have your bow or crossbow with you. Just take your drone. Make it very, very evident that there is no intention of hunting while you're using that.
What's interesting about drones, and I was thinking about this as you were saying that, what's the difference between that and using a fish finder? Because a fish finder, it tells you where the fish are, and then you cast in that spot where it tells you the fish are here.
Right, and I think that's where a lot of those conversations are starting to come from.
So a drone would be, in essence, the same thing, except instead of being in the water, it's in the air.
And I think that's where a lot of the gray area comes from.
Oh, wait, the government is involved. No,
right.
Never mind.
That's where all the gray area comes in, because you could argue and say, well, a trail camera is the similar situation of a fish finder.
Right.
You're locating, you're being able to find, and you're not, it's not like you have a live stream that you're like, oh, yeah, the deer's out there, I'm going to go out there right now.
And that may be
some people do that.
Right, and that might be where the DNR's mindset is now, is that, listen, we have legalized deer camps.
Right.
So we've given you that advantage now.
Sure.
So you know where the deer are if you use a deer cam.
Right.
And so a drone would be almost over the top.
Yeah, and that's where they're still, because it is such a new technology, that's where they're refining a lot of these laws, and there is a lot of gray area with it where they don't have a set, okay, it has to be 6 hours from the time you fly your drone to you going out in the woods. They don't really have any of that yet. So the warden that I talked to said, my recommendation is, at least if you're going to fly it one day, wait until the next day to go hunt that.
Didn't we have someone on the show that it was either for if you're trying to track a deer?
Yes.
Drone
recovery.
They use drone recovery, right?
Yeah, and those are thermal, and there's a whole bunch of certifications that go with that.
Right.
So there's a lot of licensing and like FAA regulations and things like that they have to go through in order to be able to do that and be a licensed, recovery specialist.
All right, so that's number one.
So, number 2, boots on the ground. Very obvious. Yeah. Getting out there, walking the property, using your eyes. Yes. Yeah. And seeing what is actually happening out there, because going into a new parcel, you're not familiar with it. I mean, I can tell you everything that I need to know about my place up north that I hunt, because we've hunted the same area for a number of years. I'm very familiar with it, can walk it in and out in the dark, without a headlamp, and being able to find everything that we need to. But just getting out and actually looking, finding some of those water features, finding some of those like ridges that might be out there. Just actually getting out and walking it, because you need to figure out a couple things. How are you getting into a stand? Is it marshy? Do you need waders? Do you need XYZ? Number 3, this is something that I've actually never done, but I know people that do it, is what they call an observation sit. So getting out there before the season, just taking your tree stand, sitting in a tree, watching the nature kind of unfold in front of you, and getting an idea of where are deer coming from? Mm-hmm. What's the patterning that they're kind of on at this point in time? And just making some mental notes of like, okay, well, I see that this trail is here, and it's going east to west, But it looks like they're actually coming into this from the north and then they're heading east. So being able to make some of those mental notes just in advance of that, which you may be able to get from a trail camera, but the trail camera isn't out there and actually getting, the full 360-degree view. So doing that in advance. I kind of jokingly put this in here for my number 4 bullet point is talking to other hunters.
Yeah.
Now, you park at a parking
good and
spot.
bad.
Yeah, you park at a parking spot. There's 5 other hunters. They're all packing up their tree stands. They're getting out there. They're going to go sit. You want to talk to them to figure out, okay, where are you guys going to be? This is kind of the general area of where I'm going to go sit. They're probably not going to tell you what they've seen. If they're running a trail camera, they're probably not going to tell you that there's a big 10-pointer out there. But what I mean more so with this is talking to some of your friends that are out hunting, and what are they seeing? Are they hunting like the tall grasses and brushes? Are they still bedding in those areas? Have they moved some of their patterns? Are they more active around the water sources? Is it warm? Is it cool? What are you seeing with some of that?
Yeah.
Number 5, I've mentioned this a couple times now, but, just at least having a reference point for where water is, because we've just gone through, another really warm streak where it was 80, 85, 90 degrees. You don't let your pets out without giving them water. So deer are going to be very similar in that sense that they're going to need to know where it is. And it's a great spot to be in the early season. While you're out there doing boots on the ground research or recon, number 6 is previous deer sign. So it's pretty evident.
Scrapes, rubs, that type of stuff.
All of that stuff. Anything that you're able to see, or even if it is a trail that you're able to find out there. But most notably is the old scrapes and the old rubs, because they're going to be kind of worn over. They're not going to be super open. But being able to find that and just kind of making that as a reference point of, okay, they were here before. I need to come back and check these trees, come the earlier part of the season when they start, losing their velvet, as we've talked about. They're going to be active and they're going to be leaving their scent all over the place. So are they returning to those same spots? Which then, number 7 is current deer sign. So even when we were out in the woods 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when we put our trail cameras out, we had fresh rubs that were opening, or fresh scrapes on the ground that were opening up, that I was kind of surprised by. You always think like the big portion of that activity is happening out in the woods during the later October, early November, when they're really rutted up and they're really trying to make an impression and mark their territory. But it happens, now. They're out there still doing that, and they're still making signs, especially getting the velvet off. They're going to be rubbing up on trees. And then number 8 is just, do you need to put other cameras out? If you have one camera that you're thinking you're going to hunt in that one spot, hey, do I need to put a camera there? What does my stand location look like? Is there a huntable tree? Am I going to bring a climbing stand out here or a hang-on stand out here? Or is this someplace that I'm going to have to hunt off the ground? So evaluating some of those other things that you need to think about in advance of going out and actually getting your first sit in. And now's the time to do it 2 weeks before the season, and making sure that, or a week before the season actually now, before you really kind of put your scent all over the place and getting out there.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And that's something, certainly, if you're just joining us here in the tail end of the show, you want to go back and get the podcast.
Yep.
Because really, and again, it's simple things that to many are common sense, but yet you don't want to be caught off guard when you're in a new spot, do you?
Right. And that's I think why the DNR does such a great job of actually sending out those reminders.